let's go into now more the PEMF side of it and what you are actually doing now. It all kind of started with a little bit of a story or a personal health journey that maybe some people might know from the episode 1, or if they've kind of listened to some of your other podcasts that you featured on. So kind of a more condensed version than maybe what you would do on a normal episode. What led you into PEMF? What was that first kind of step into PEMF?
Yeah, it's a good way to run into this because, we just mentioned Bedfont, which is the family business, and I was working for them. So left university, I was working for the family business, and we were traveling quite a lot. So it was, they are a medical manufacturing business. At the time that I started, my dad was running it, but now these days my brother's taken over. So my older brother is running that business, and we was traveling a lot. I was always going to exhibitions, and we went to an exhibition called Medica every year. And at Medica, this guy called Gregor come up to me, a German guy, and he said to me, we've got this technology called PEMF therapy. He gave us a spiel. He told us that it's, the new silver bullet. It does everything. It's amazing. And he was looking for a UK distributor at the time. So, for us, we were really interested. My dad had actually used PEMF therapy on his horse in the past and had really good results from it. So he was sold. He understood it. But we were too busy with Bedfont and the medical breath analyzers that they still sell today. And, it just wasn't a good time for us. But I was traveling to Australia. We'd just been to another exhibition, and in personal life, I just got engaged with my now wife. So she was actually traveling with me. She worked at Bedfont with me as well. And I developed this pain in my stomach. So it was very strange. We're just about to leave. We're just about to go home. We get on the plane back to the UK. And by the time we get back to the UK, the pain had developed and it was like excruciating. They actually sent a little ambulance out to the plane to get me. That was in our stopover in Dubai. And they gave me some morphine in Dubai and then flew back to the UK to more than one way, full of morphine. And we get back to the UK and I go straight to hospital. It was a Friday night in the UK, not a good time to go to A&E. They gave me loads of painkillers. They couldn't work out what it was. And they said to me, come back on Monday. So come back on Monday with the surgeons there. And by then, I'm in like a world of pain. I'm sweating. I'd been laid down all weekend on heavy painkillers. We get to the hospital and by the time we get into the UK hospital, I've fainted because it's like pain's too much. So they basically take me down for surgery. When I come out of surgery, they told me that it was an infection. So it was like a huge infection within my stomach. I had to go through my belly button to get to it, empty it out. And it was very, very close to turning into sepsis. So I was like on the edge of like something seriously bad. I always say to everybody that I talked to about this story, and, because we're in the biohacking industry, the wellness industry, there's a little bit of a sometimes clash between the medical and the wellness industry. But I wouldn't be here today without the UK and NHS and for that situation where they intervened and surgery happened. The problem is, and, that's where PEMF therapy comes in, is the care thereafter, and the health system's way of keeping people healthy and keeping them out of hospital, where it doesn't work, it doesn't help. So I was given loads and loads of antibiotics, like for 6 months following the operation, and the infection just kept coming back. It wouldn't fix. So they get to a point where they're just trying new antibiotics each time. The infection kept coming back. And it wasn't until, I wasn't able to work at this point. So I'm out of the family business. I'm sitting at home. My mental health is spiraling out of control because I'm 25 years old. Like I mentioned before, I was burning the candle at both ends and just not understanding that, you can't do that forever. From 18 years old, going out, drinking, staying up late nights. Same in, when we were in Australia, we're out there for 3 weeks. We're enjoying it. We were with family. And I don't know if that was the cause of what happened, but, I'm then in this spiral of 6 months worth of antibiotics and just getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And there's pictures of me back then. I was proper skinny and just looked very unhealthy. So my dad comes to me at one point and, first thing he's like, when are you going to come back to work for starters? But he's like, why don't you try that PEMF therapy? We spoke to that guy, that German guy. He's got a product. What have you got else left to lose? It's complementary. You can use it alongside everything they're giving you. So eventually we buy this product, comes in from Germany, and it took a long time to get through customs because they didn't know what it was. And we finally get it in the UK and I start using it. And when I say I start using it, 20 minutes a day in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. So 40 minutes in total. And it's just a mat that you lay on, turn it on, choose your frequency, press go. It runs for 20 minutes and that does the magic, which we'll talk about. And it was only a week into using it that the infection cleared up for the first time. So, even though these antibiotics would kind of like keep the infection at bay, they never really cleared it up or got rid of it. But this PEMF therapy device seemed to be the last bit of the puzzle that I needed to get me back on, to get my health back. So a week in, the infection cleared. Second week in, the wound healed up and everything started to close and started to look much better. So I went back to my surgeon and, he's sitting there ready to prescribe me with some more drugs. And I'm like, I found something that worked, and he could sell straight the minute I walked in. My demeanor was completely different. And he said, what have you been doing? And I said, well, I found this thing called PEMF therapy, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. And he's like, okay, right, yeah, whatever it is, it sounds very woo-woo. But great, if it's working for you, then keep doing it. But I actually bought in a leaflet of the product because I said to this German guy, like, send me some leaflets. I wanted to start talking to people about this. And, you could see him put it on his desk and I absolutely know 100% that went in the bin as soon as I left that room. Like there was no interest. He didn't want to engage about it. It was just, okay, thanks. See you later. So I came off on my medication and the weeks went on thereafter and I just started to feel normal again, started to feel myself again. And not only was I working, I was able to go to the gym again and I did a Spartan race, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks after I introduced the PEMF therapy. And I remember crying after that Spartan race, thinking to myself, I couldn't have seen myself doing this or being here, 6-8 weeks ago. Then I took a real crossroads, in my decision as to what I wanted to do, whether I'll go back and work for the family business again, because I had this real passion for this PEMF thing. It helped me, it saved my life. It's got my life back. I want to do something with this, these things in life happen for a reason. There's all these signs that we have. And anyone I spoke to in the UK about what PEMF therapy was, nobody knew what it is, and still the education's not there today. And that's why we're sitting here having this conversation. But rather than, I spoke to the family, spoke to my brother and my dad, and the decision at the time was to kind of, let's start a new company called NewMed, and let's import PEMF devices to the UK. And it started with this German product, and we will make it more accessible to the UK market, and we will kind of try and educate people on what PEMF therapy is and import products here to educate people here and to get people to use it, because if it helped me, it's going to help millions of other people. So that was the decision at the time. I was still working at the family business for a number of years thereafter, but I had this business NewMed, which I was doing 50% of the time of importing PEMF devices and selling them to the UK market. So that's kind of where NewMed started.
No, and we'll go a little bit deeper into NewMed and kind of the current state of NewMed and the future plans for that as well a little bit later on. I know I always like to ask this question a lot of the time when we have the PEMF experts on. I know you said your dad wasn't skeptical of the therapy when it first came around, but were you skeptical when the mat kind of first arrived and you had your kind of first session and maybe didn't feel loads after it, or maybe you did, but yeah, were you skeptical of it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I took the same journey that so many people take. If it wasn't for my dad telling me to use it and that he used it on his horses and he'd had a good success for them, I probably would never have considered it. A 25-year-old young lad, someone tells you that pulsing electromagnetic fields into your body is gonna be the solution to this. You just got to lay on this gym mat for 20 minutes 2 times a day. I was in the same mindset. I was only really doing it because my dad told me to do it. And PEMF therapy is something that we say to a lot of people. They have to try it to understand it, to believe it. And it was exactly the same for me. But I also took the placebo route in the first week. So, but what I mean is the placebo route is a few days in, I'm thinking, you know what, I'm laying on this thing because like you mentioned in the question, it's like even the experience of a PEMF therapy, especially a low intensity one, you don't feel it. So it's not like a cold plunge where you feel something immediately. It's not a sauna, you don't feel heat. It's not a red light device where you can see it, you can feel the warmth. It's low intensity PEMF devices, you lay on them, you can't feel anything. But I think if you really tune into it, and I was doing this, you do feel something. You feel some resonating frequencies, you feel a small tingle, you feel areas in the body that are hurting actually get worse sometimes because your body kicks in and starts to heal that area. So, my belly button was where they had gone in where the infection was, and I actually started feeling it throbbing around my belly button. Despite the fact that this was a really low intensity mat that I'm laying on my back, I was feeling it in my belly button. And the first couple of days I'm thinking, maybe when I turn this thing on, it's just in my mind, it's not actually doing anything, but I'm kind of making it happen. I'm like manifesting something happening. And then when the infection cleared up, you start thinking that was probably a coincidence, like it could have just been that this was the week it was going to heal. Then when the scar, healed over, when you're looking at a scar that's open, you think that's going to take months to close up. And, within a week it's closed up and it's starting to heal. I'm like, okay, there must be something in this. And I think everyone takes that journey a lot of the time with PEMF therapy. And it's not until you try it, understand it, and get through that first week of thinking it's a placebo that you really start to understand that this is actually working. And now obviously where I've seen the science behind it and tested my blood, which we might talk about, it's, now I know exactly what happens with PEMF therapy and why it works.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's, as you say, the same journey that a lot of people with PEMF have. A lot of time we might even get reviews. I think we've had at least 3 or 4 reviews that have said I was heavily skeptical at first, but this got better, this got better, this got better. And that was the only thing I changed. And then, as you say, you actually see the difference. You're like, oh, maybe it is actually doing something. But like when you're using it, it's kind of hard to make that distinguishing thing because you're not feeling anything. Like you say, it's not a cold plunge. You don't instantly get that feeling of something.